again. If you have a busy week ahead, or you're realizing like pairing up isn't quite your thing, please email me over as soon as possible that you'd like to opt out for Hive Mates this week, just so that way we make sure we're good to go. I also wanted to take a moment just to remind you all that we are always looking for people to moderate on Tuesdays. So if you have questions and some things you're trying to overcome in your business and you'd love to hear them out, it would be a great opportunity for you to lead the Hive on a Tuesday. I'll be doing it tomorrow, and Fatima did it for us last week, so we'll give you guys some great examples of what to expect. But please feel free to reach out if you're interested in that. And then the last thing we'll announce at the end, we have our Buzz Point winners. So I'll be announcing that at the end when we announce our competition for the week. So with all of that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Anthony and let him take over for the day.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? So just to introduce myself again, my name is Anthony Rassam. I'm the creative director of Live in Detroit. And I'm also a professional photographer. I've been doing it for about 6 years now. I've always had an artist background, so a lot of my photos are actually taken with my iPhone, believe it or not. And so I'll just give you a few tips going through like what's important about taking photos, and what kind of apps that I use to edit my photos. So to start off, I just want to talk about like lighting is probably the most important part about photography, and using your iPhone to create good photos. Now, you always want to pay attention if you're taking photos of people or for products that you want to pay attention to open sources of light. That's the most important part, I believe. So usually when you want to take some photos, once you find the best light, you want to experiment with some different, angles and distancing. So maybe you want to get close, maybe you want to get a little bit further back, and usually that will help you take some better photos right there. And it's always great to tell your iPhone's camera to when you're focusing or what you're focusing on, so your app will best, automatically fit the needs of whatever you're photographing. So those are a couple key things to taking better photos without any editing or without any without any kind of help with your phone. It's kind of just at the end of the day, it's you who takes the photo, and knowing those kind of tips will always kind of elevate you to go to the next level with your actual photography. Now, another thing I do want to get into is editing. Editing is definitely one of the most important parts, and actually finalizes the final step of photo taking. And so now iPhone obviously has tons of great tips, tons of great tips on the App Store itself on taking better photos too. So if you ever need some more resources, I'd definitely go to the App Store. It's officially through Apple, and they'll tell you a lot of different apps that are popular and what people are using. There's a ton of different things that you can kind of play around with there. So I imagine a lot of people are using, using their iPhone to take photos for their business or their personal branding. And so, you do want to have a folder full of different little tools and apps to help you take better photos. So one thing I would want to say is definitely have a couple apps to take the photo. So there's ones like the camera stock app, which I personally use. I love it. There's an app called Moment, which are more for professionals. I love using Moment as well because it lets you take raw photos. So what that means is when you take a raw photo, it gives you complete control over any mistakes that you may have made with lighting, color, white balance, and those are usually the best things to look out for is those kind of elements on your photo. That's very, very important to the color, to the lighting, just making the photo overall look its best. So one app that I usually use is Snapseed. Snapseed is my favorite editor Um, I think it's the best kind of all-in-one app to use when you're editing your photos. And so what it does is it gives you a lot of control over your photo. And even if you don't really know too much about editing, I would say that um, Snapseed is probably going to be your best bet because they have a lot of like AI features that help you kind of decide, hey, this is the best way for your photo to be edited, and hey, I want to just maybe touch this up. Snapseed is really, really good at that, and there's also a lot of like different ways to kind of fix your photo as well. So let's say you're kind of taking something straight on and the angle is a little off, you can adjust some of the perspective of your photo. There's also something in the app that allows you to kind of fix blemishes like here and there. I would say it's the best, and I'll kind of get into that a little bit more. I'll tell you what the best app is for fixing blemishes and stuff like that. But there's a lot of filters that you can use too if you want to give it a little grainy film look. That is a really big feature on Snapseed, and they have tons of different filters that you can use. Um, so I use that for like 90% of my work. I really love it, and I think it's the best way to go. The next one is a classic. I would say Lightroom is one of the probably better apps that you can use if you're a professional photographer. And people, every professional photographer uses it. It's mostly used on Mac and PC, but they do have an app. It's pretty good. They have you can get full control if you have the Creative Cloud membership on your phone. Through like just if you have a Creative Cloud through like your Mac or your PC or whatever you're using. If you have any Adobe products, it's really really good if you want to get serious about taking your photos. But if you don't have one, that's good too because they actually do have a lot of good controls for if free to anyone who wants to download it. So it's really just a bunch of sliders like your exposure, your light, your white balance, shadows, contrast, and usually that stuff is pretty important, and you can get pretty into it with the free features that they give you. And then the last app was something I kind of was talking about before with the Snapseed is that you can actually it's an app called Photoshop Fix, and if you have any blemishes in your photos, I would say use Photoshop Fix. It's definitely a handy app, and I think this is an app that anyone can get into. Now, Photoshop Fix, you can really get into like the small details, fixing blemishes like like uh, pimples, uh, dust or dirt or anything that might be in the photo. There's a lot of little, minor imperfections that you can kind of fix in there. And it's a way to kind of add a finishing touch, in my opinion. I think it's definitely the last step that you need to take when you want to post something online. I would say bring it through Photoshop Fix and just see what you can do on it. But one thing I would say is to keep it pretty minimal. You want to keep it simple, and that's one of the most important things about just photo editing and photo taking in general. Is keep it simple. Um, the key is just to making your photo look as natural as possible. And if you can make it as natural as possible, then I think you have a really, really great photo, and you can get the point across. Because really, what you should be looking for is kind of capturing the essence of whatever your subject is. Now, whether that's a product or a person, you definitely want to maybe capture that person or capture what the product is for. Um, so that's just one thing that I would say is a great mindset to have, aside from using all these apps and doing that kind of stuff. You definitely do want to keep that in mind. Is just making something simple but really powerful, and it's really just the content rather than the technical aspects. But the technical aspects are really really important. So yeah, I would say Photoshop Fix, just to get it back on track. Photoshop Fix is definitely one of those apps that I think is essential for anyone to use, whether you're a professional or business person. Anyone, anyone can use this app. I think it's definitely great for any selfies that you might take, or anything that you might just want to touch up or fix a little bit. It's really quick, very very easy to use. It's probably one of the easiest apps to use. So these will definitely help you make your photos better, and I think I think using those apps are definitely a great way to go. Uh, so let me get into the photo taking apps too. So one thing that I use is Moment. That's definitely one of the greatest ways to go. Like I said before, it's an app to kind of capture your photo raw. Um, and now, yeah, I would say the InStock app too through Apple, great app. You can definitely go into there and it's definitely a powerful app. Everything is basically auto, so that means you just don't really need to know too much of the technical aspects. And personally, I'm one of those type of photographers who I really don't even care about the technical aspects. I just really want to capture the just the actual essence of the photo or the subject. That's the most important part about photo taking. So if you leave it all to the Apple, the in-stock camera app that everyone has, then you'll definitely get some great photos. But there's a couple of things that you might need to know. And now one of the things is I would always turn on the grid. If you don't already have it turned on, I would definitely go through your settings, go to the camera section of the settings, and turn on the grid. And then while you're at it, turn on the HDR. Now, I'll talk about that in a little bit, but the grid is really important for lining up your photo, getting your composition right. That's definitely something that is super important, is getting your composition, getting that correct. It'll definitely do a lot to your photo without having to, edit too much. And you want to keep editing to a minimum. You want to be able to do it really quick. So using that grid will definitely help you and save you some time because you're definitely going to need to save as much time as possible because you can use that energy to edit or take more content. Um, the next thing is HDR, so that's another thing that you can turn on in the settings or even in the app. And what that is it just basically gives you higher detail and it gives you kind of more depth in the photo, right? So say you're taking a photo of the sky, it will give you more depth in that sky. It'll show up the colors, the true colors, the true detail, the shadows, the highlights, all that kind of stuff. It gives you a really great contrast. So if you want to see immediate improvement in your photos, definitely turn on the HDR. It will definitely help you out in many different situations. Um, and one thing that I feel like is kind of obvious too is using the portrait mode feature if you have it available on your phone. And now that can change your photos a lot. But the great thing about it is after you're done taking the photo, you can edit how blurry the background is. And I would say to kind of keep that a little higher. So the lower the number is, the more blurry the background, right? So it goes all the way down to 1.4 is the blurriest background. You want to keep it maybe about 3.2 to about 4. So when you're doing that, just kind of keep that in mind. It gives you the most natural look because if you overdo it, it really does show, and that kind of puts you in a place where you could have had a more natural looking photo. So that's usually one of my favorite little tips about using that. It definitely will change your photos if using the portrait mode feature. It does give it a little professional touch if you don't already have a DSLR or any professional cameras at home. Well, you don't really need it because the iPhone really encompasses a lot of the features that you could get from a professional camera, and it really outperforms your $400 or $500 consumer DSLRs that you can get on at like Best Buy or like Target or something. So your iPhone is very, very powerful. Just keep that in mind. There's definitely more tools that you can possibly imagine. Um, and using burst mode too on the camera app is definitely one of those features that have helped me a lot. So burst mode, obviously everyone knows about it, I'm sure, is when you just hold down the shutter button, it takes a lot of different photos. One thing I really do like about that is Apple will automatically kind of pick the photo for you that they think is best, but you can kind of go in there and choose the right one for you. And definitely remember to delete those afterwards because they do take up a lot of space. Um, yeah. So, is there any questions that you guys had so far? I know I'm going a little too fast. I feel like, but yeah, if you want to put any questions in the chat, I'm definitely up to answering them. And yeah.
I know Fatima had a question. The Moment app that you talked about for using photos, or for taking photos, was that the Pro Camera by Moment? Is that right?
Yeah, so they have two different ones. I think if you just type in Moment, it usually is the first one that's free. That's usually the way to go with that. Because they, what Moment is, they're actually a company to. Yes, actually, a lot of these apps do work on Android. So yeah, you can download. Like Snapseed is actually an Android app. But to go back to Moment, yeah, they actually are a company who makes lenses and attachments to make your photos better. If you do want to get that far into it, I would highly recommend getting into Moment and going to their website and see what they have available. But yeah, it's a free app. It should be on Android as well, and it's one of the best apps to kind of get full control over your settings.
Awesome.
And so yeah, but for Antoine and Angela, yeah, definitely all these apps are available on Android. You can get them from Google Play, and I'm sure Android has a lot of different apps. They're not available on the App Store. You can definitely get into that too as well. And Julie says, my internet started going out. I missed some information about Portugal. Okay, so the numbers thing I was talking about, it's called an f-stop. And usually when you go into your camera roll, you can go on that photo you took with a portrait mode and click edit at the top right corner. There will be something where it kind of has like this little meter, and you can kind of like go back and forth with it. And now what that meter is actually those numbers. They're called the f-stop, and you can kind of adjust those, and it changes the blurriness of the background. The lower the number, the blurrier it is, and the higher the number, the more sharp and in focus it is. So it's definitely a good way to go. And I think it's definitely something that can change your photos a lot if you kind of play with it and see what's best for you. Anyone else have any questions or anything that I could clear up for you?
I wanted to say something about the Moment stuff. For those of you who want to like up your like game but not maybe get a professional camera, my boyfriend has a few of the like Moment attachment lenses for your camera or for your phone. And he's like shot full music videos with them. Like it looks crazy professional. It just kind of is like a easy and cheaper way than buying it a full on camera is getting those attachments. So for those of you like really interested in that, I would definitely check out Moment. They make some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I would say they're pretty good for travel as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Totally.
if you're gonna memorize the stuff that you take with you,
Mm-hmm.
then I would definitely invest in some travel and some Moment gear, because you can definitely just put that in your pocket or in your bag.
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah. I was so impressed with the quality.
Yeah, absolutely, it does help out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You can definitely get like very professional camera quality with
Mm-hmm.
that. That's one thing I would definitely look into getting. They have a big web shop. They always have sales.
Mm-hmm.
And their app is just really good in general. If you don't want to go ahead and spend the extra money, I mean, their app is really, really great. But their accessories are really, really amazing. I would definitely look into that instead of buying a camera.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else have any questions or anything that you guys would like to ask? Again, you can drop them in the chat or the Q&A. We can answer them there. I know one thing you had mentioned that I was kind of curious about. You talked about like letting in light. So when you're like taking, whether it be an image, a still life or whatever, and even a person. Can you kind of touch on that again for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So, lighting is absolutely one of the most important things when taking photos. In the back over here, I have something that's called backlighting. You kind of don't want to. You want to avoid that. So anytime you have a window, I really do like windows a lot for natural lighting. If you have your subject facing the window or the natural light source, then I think that you'll have the absolute highest detail and soft light coming in. The most important thing is finding soft light. So if you have something that's kind of just direct, it's not going to work as well. You're going to get a lot of shadows. I would say keep it as soft as possible. That's why windows, I feel like, are my favorite, best way to go. or if you're outdoors, then that's the best. That's also a really good way to go as well. I would say that uh, keeping that minimal and don't have too much direct light. I would say that you know you want to keep it. You want to keep it as natural as possible.
Cool. And do you have any tips too? So like with like flat light photos, where you have like a few different things. Maybe like for me, working in the wedding industry, those detail shots are usually a flat light. Do you have any tips and suggestions? Because I know a lot of times like it takes so long to get the camera perfectly centered, so it's not looking skewed or something like that. Do you have any suggestions for that?
Yeah. So actually, I have a couple ways to fix that. I did talk about the grid. I don't know if you have that on your camera. That really helps. Helps
Okay.
it up a lot. And then, one thing I would say is just try to get it nearest to the window if you can. If you can get that kind of stuff. I know in venues that there's really not a lot of windows or natural light coming in unless it's outdoors. Uh,
Yeah.
so usually, my thing for that is just try to get as close to big light source as possible if you have that available. But as far as fixing any of that, like kind of on balance or anything like that, you can definitely do that in a lot of apps, even in the native iPhone apps or even in the Android apps. You can definitely kind of just give that a fix there. There's something called perspective,
Okay.
and then you can kind of adjust the perspective, up and down and side to side as well. So that will usually help it a lot. Even in the Instagram app, if you're posting on Instagram on a feed post, you can even adjust it from there. I do it all the time. Yeah, you just want to watch out for something called perspective or horizontal and vertical. You'll see that it's kind of just like it usually looks like it's like split in half, and then yeah, you'll see it. It's just called perspective.
Okay.
And then I see Brandy talking about, do you have any experience with taking photos of real estate, when taking photos of rooms of property, uh, which apps or tools may be beneficial? I would say for if you can get one, I would say if you have a phone with a tripod, that usually helps out a lot because you can get the most steady shot, and you can use HDR. If you're taking photos of real estate, uh, you could definitely get into the Moment app and any kind of manual photo taking apps because usually you want to get like the most detail, and HDR is one of the most important things about taking photos of real estate. Um, so those are usually good for like kind of quick little photos if you can't get a photographer available. Um, I wouldn't really recommend using your iPhone to take photos of real estate. You can do like the outdoors, but the interiors get kind of hard with an iPhone because the lighting is not always great. So if you can control the lighting, definitely use your iPhone. But the outdoors and exterior parts of real estate, you can definitely nail with your iPhone. Um, yeah. Let's see. Any more questions? Okay, um, so Julie, I see that you commented about using my iPhone professionally. Do I use my iPhone for photo shoots of people or just objects? So I kind of don't use my iPhone for photo shoots of people, just because I feel like they might not trust that right away, especially if they haven't met you before. So I would say maybe not use the iPhone to take photo shoots of people if they're paying you or anything like that. If you're doing it for fun, why not? It's definitely a great way. I think you can definitely do a lot with your iPhone taking photos of people. It's definitely the easiest way to take photos of people, I would say, and you're gonna get the best quality out of that as well. So yeah, I mean, for objects, you can definitely use your iPhone a lot too. But one thing you want to keep consider if you're taking photos of objects, you definitely do want to have a lot of props, and you do want to pay attention to your lighting. I think if you have those two elements down, then you can really take some amazing professional quality like photos of objects or products or anything like that. For people, I would definitely just you can definitely do it for fun, but I wouldn't do it professionally. For what I use it for, I just take photos of people at events with like my DSLR. But like if I'm using my iPhone, I'll usually do that for objects, or content, just anything for quick social media posts. And sometimes if I don't have my camera with me, that's usually what saves my life. It's just my iPhone. So definitely just use it when you don't have your camera.
do does anybody else have any other questions or anything for uh, for Anthony here, or are we feeling good about things? Are you guys excited to hear the competition for the week? I know it's a little different here with the webinar setup, so I can't see your thumbs up, but if anyone has any questions, just drop them really quickly in the chat. And what I'll do, I'll start kind of describing our competition for the week. I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun with this one, and I hope we get a lot of participation. So give me 1 second. I'm going to switch us over to the screen share again so you guys can see that. All right. So this week for the competition, we're going to challenge each of you to take a photo with your iPhone using all of the tips that Anthony has given us here. What you'll do, you'll post that photo on your Instagram. And so what we're going to do, we're going to look at your percentage of growth in likes. So the winner will have the most growth in likes from their last photo. So take everything you learned, post it, and then the picture that you want to be your one that's entered in the competition, just make sure you tag Bees Detroit, so that way we can go through and do all of the necessary calculations and things like that. But that's going to be the competition this week. And the prize this week is going to be a free month of membership for you or a friend. So that will be your just kidding. I think I just mixed those up. Your prize is a $25 gift card to the small business of your choice. The buzz point will be your opportunity to win a free month of membership. So anyway, posting a picture on Instagram using all of Anthony's great tips. Feel free to tag Raw Detroit too if you want to show it off a little bit. We'll be super excited to see what everyone puts together. Does anybody have any questions or anything? We've got a question. And Eli asked if we have a tip sheet that I'll be sending out after this. I did take a ton of notes here, so I'll be sending out a list of all of the apps and everything that Anthony suggested. I've got a few tips on, adjusting your portrait mode, things like that. So we've gathered all of that. That'll all be posted in the Facebook group after this. Does anybody else have any other questions? Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Anthony. This was great, and I think everyone's going to be pretty excited to put their phones to use because I think we all have a little bit of quiet time, and we're all seeking a little bit of creativity right now. So this was super great, and we really appreciate you coming on this morning.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Anytime, honestly. And I hope I give you guys some great tips. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm always open to answer anything or clear up anything that I might have talked about. But with all the tips I gave you guys, I hope that you could get creative during this quarantine. I know it gets really boring. Anything that you guys just kind of see in your daily life, I would say photograph it, see if you can get the best kind of perspective of that in your own eyes, in your own view. I think that might be the best way to kind of approach that. It's more mindset than technical, so always remember that. Just kind of see a photo and everything, and I think that you can go really, really far with that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being on here today. And I probably will be reaching out to you too, just to make sure everything I've listed is correct as far as absence.
Yeah, absolutely, anytime. Yeah, I can definitely review it for you, and anything that you need me to add, I can. And
great.
Be able to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anthony. We will all be in touch with you, I'm sure, very soon.
All right. Awesome.